When 2017's A Silent Voice was released, I remember seeing the trailer and being like, oh man, this movie's going to emotionally destroy me. And while that statement wasn't wrong, the lasting impact this film had on me was something that I had never expected. I ended up watching the movie with my boyfriend, and boy, am I glad I wasn't completely alone. For those of you that haven't seen the film, go watch it. I'm not really going to give a long-winded synopsis of the film. There are already great videos on that topic already. You can always come back to this one. I'll see you in about 2 hours and 9 minutes. I related strongly to both Shoko and Ishida's journeys. I, like Shoko, have a physical disability, and like Ishida and Shoko, struggle greatly with mental illness issues, self-worth, and self-esteem. Seeing the childhood events that provide context to the opening scenes left me with this feeling of, damn, this movie doesn't pull any punches. Immediately, Shoko's otherness is on display when she's standing in front of her new classmates, with the soundtrack effectively illustrating the divide between Shoko and the rest of her peers. And I have to say that this particular scene is so well done, and in many ways, very true to my own experience. Standing in front of your peers and explaining your differences makes you feel as though you're bearing your soul to people you haven't even gotten the chance to know yet. This, in many ways, introduces the conflict and inciting incidents for the film and the characters. Seeing Shoko placed in a classroom that isn't equipped to provide effective adaptations for her to succeed strains the relationship between her and her classmates, and I couldn't help getting choked up at Shoko constantly falling behind and feeling disconnected from her peers. When I was younger, I had a lot of surgeries and needed physical therapy to get back to where I was prior to said surgery, before shortly needing another. So it was sort of like hitting the reset button after finally leveling that skill tree you've been working at for months. And in turn, this made making friends really difficult. I always felt like my peers saw me as too odd or different to get to know me on a personal level. So seeing Shoko constantly apologize and smile before finally exploding with Ishida's instigation was the beginning of the waterworks. Keep in mind, we're only 20 minutes in. This scene hit hard, not just due to the emotional end, but the elevation provided by Kensuke Ushio's masterful score. The bullying that Shoko endures is an element that I'm all too familiar with, and it's here that I have to rant for a moment. We all know that going to teachers or administrators usually doesn't help the individuals being bullied. In my experience, it either only made things worse or did nothing to stop the bullying. In one instance that I actually stood up for myself, I was met with being shoved into a desk and my teacher stating to me that I, quote, pushed the envelope too much, which made me feel as though there was no point in standing up for myself if I'm just going to be told that I'm wrong for doing so. So like many others, and like Shoko, I became quiet, withdrawn, and very depressed because I felt like if I didn't have my disability, I could just be like everybody else. Be normal. And as another little side note, the teachers and administrators, in my opinion, are the biggest contributors for the disconnect for Shoko and the abuse that she endures from her peers. They, well, more specifically the teacher, knows full well what's happening and does little, if anything, to make Shoko's situation better, which doesn't surprise me. However, I feel that it's important to understand how different cultures take on the topic of bullying, so I did some digging. According to an article published in 2021, explaining the prevalence of bullying throughout Japan, quote, being different and therefore being at a higher risk of being singled out and bullied not only refers to defects in appearance, behavior, or performance, but equally to children who attract unwanted attention due to overachievements, unique talents, or exceptional looks. End quote. With this information in mind, you can sort of see how Japanese students walk this fine line when it comes to fitting in with their peers and meeting the expectations set before them by their parents, teachers, etc. Watching Ishida stumble through his attempt to atone for his past actions with Shoko, and Shoko feeling as though she is undeserving of living and experiencing the joys of life, just broke my heart. The whole Ferris wheel scene where Ueno thinks that Shoko hates her, only for Shoko to reveal that she hates herself, was the moment that it hit me. This film was more than a film. I felt the emotions and the challenges the main characters faced were elements that either you could relate to, or it opened up the means to talk about things like mental health, or the challenges faced by those that are other, and the importance of allowing yourself to heal. There was a point in my life that I felt the same way Shoko did. I was in an awful place mentally, felt as though I was unable to make good choices in terms of friends, had no drive or desire to do anything, and felt like I didn't add anything of value. So, naturally, thoughts of self-harm were in the back of my mind a lot of the time. And while I never acted on them, they still ate away at my soul. And what do you do when your soul is stripped down and eaten away? We see what it does to Shoko, and it leads to one of the moments where the film helped me shift perspectives. Since I had always been the one struggling and feeling disconnected, I never thought too much about the effect that had on my family or even my boyfriend. And since I saw a lot of myself in Shoko, it felt like I was looking from the outside for the first time, and it hurt. It made me feel sad and unable to speak. I remember holding on tightly to my boyfriend's hand throughout the remainder of the film, silently apologizing to him, as I finally understood what he must have been feeling all these years. Watching the person he loves the most in the world be in pain and unable to take it away must be a different type of hell. To this day, I appreciate his love and patience, and I hope to repay his kindness with my own when he needs it. The remainder of the film didn't hold back on emotional punches, as the characters deal with the outcome and effects of Shoko's suicide attempt and Ishida's hospitalization. Each of the characters apologizing and Shoko working towards changing for the better while trying to rebuild what was lost between the friends was nice, but again, I really don't like Ueno still being a petty bitch even after everything, doing the bare minimum in terms of growth and not taking any accountability after beating up Shoko and failing to understand her and the role she played in Shoko's decision to take her own life. Like, my god, she is one of the worst characters in this story. Well, maybe not the absolute worst, because that spot is reserved for Kawaii. Because, oh my god, Kawaii. Don't even get me started with her. We will be here forever. That is not an exaggeration. Okay, sorry. I'll compose myself. Had to get that out of my system. The scene on the bridge between Shoko and Ishida is the scene that really stood out to me, both as Ishida's best moment. One, because he was so relieved that he was alive and that Shoko was safe, that his only reaction was laughing. It added some levity without taking away the emotion of the scene, which I really appreciate. And two, Ishida's apology is exactly what it needed to be. He acknowledged where he went wrong, and in an attempt to atone for his past actions, wasn't aware of her current self or her struggles, and apologizes for his actions leading her to the worst possible choice she could have made. Shoko is then able to explain her thought process and state her reasons and apologize to him for getting hurt when he saved her. This scene does a fantastic job of showcasing growth while also showing where they still need help and support, and leads to one of the best representations of what it means to be there for someone who is struggling.
あのさ、西宮、俺、君に生きるのを手伝ってほしい。 西宮。
It's through the support of our loved ones that we are able to become better and see both our choices and actions can help each other as much as they can hurt. To me, this apology is the best I've ever seen. Okay, well, maybe not the best, since Zuko's apology to Uncle Iroh is the greatest, most emotional moment and demonstration of growth, accountability, love, support, and forgiveness, but we can talk about that in another video. From this point, we see both Ishida and Shoko strive to be better and face challenges together. And I want to talk about the final scene. The final scene of this movie is an absolute masterpiece. The visuals, the score, the realization that Ishida has is nothing short of perfect. The moment he removed his hands from his ears and opened his eyes had me on the verge of tears. It wasn't until the point of light that appeared at the beginning of the film showed two people walking side by side instead of one person that I broke, sobbing just as hard, if not harder, than Ishida. As the credits rolled, I sobbed in my boyfriend's lap, unable to speak for a solid 10 minutes. I remember looking up at him and saying, "I want to live." I had never said that to myself, let alone out loud. So as everything about this film and its messages hit me with such unrelenting force, that desire to live stuck with me long after I watched this film. While I still struggle with self-esteem, my disability, and my mental health, I remember this film, the film that showed me so much pain, struggle, warmth, happiness, and so much growth in their characters and their ability to change. I'm reminded that it's best to move forward with your scars, your differences, because it's through those differences, through those scars, that you can help someone, be there for them, and show them just how much they add to this world just by being here. I'm reminded that a silent voice helped me live.